The battle over bingo continues to rage in Alabama. What started as a legal concern has now escalated into a war of words between the governor, legislators, and owners of electronic bingo operations. In the middle of all the debate are allegations of fraud, backdoor deals, and payoffs reaching back nearly a decade. Our investigation into those allegations started in September of last year, and after 5 months of asking, we were granted a sit-down interview with the governor in late January. Here's part 1 of our special investigative series, The Battle Over Bingo.
It has nothing to do with politics. It has never had anything to do with politics.
The story started in 1997 when a legislative press aide named Michael Scanlon started working in the office of then State Representative Bob Riley. Riley moved to the governor's office in 2002 without Michael Scanlon. By that time, Scanlon was working as a Washington lobbyist with Jack Abramoff. The two began a long, corrupt journey of defrauding Indian tribes of millions of dollars for consulting work.
I solemnly affirm that the testimony I give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
And were eventually convicted of federal conspiracy charges.
I have never met Jack Abramoff. I have no idea what Jack Abramoff said, but I do know one thing. He went to jail because of what he did with Indians.
But published reports show that Governor Riley signed a letter opposing the expansion of gambling casinos in Alabama on behalf of the U.S. Family Network, a public policy group funded in part by monies from the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. Additionally, a congressional hearing discovered this December 2002 email written between Mike Scanlon and Jack Abramoff discussing the need to get Riley elected to keep Indian gaming out of Alabama, therefore guaranteeing Mississippi tribes a monopoly. Scanlon writes to Abramoff, "She definitely wants Riley to shut down the Porch Creek operation, including his announcement that anyone caught gambling there cannot qualify for a state contract or something like that."
No, ma'am. You're absolutely 100% totally wrong. And if you really would go back and look at this, I think you will understand why you're wrong. I have never had a conversation. I don't know how else to explain this. I have never had a conversation with anyone in Mississippi in my life about Indian gaming there. Ever.
These people weren't in Mississippi. Governor Riley's alleged involvement with Mississippi Indians is mentioned again, this time in the final Senate report. The report states Abramoff told a tribal leader that Chief Philip Martin had spent $13 million to, quote, get the governor of Alabama elected to keep gaming out of Alabama so it wouldn't hurt his market in Mississippi.
Somebody said that we spent 13, or the Indians gave us, this is an allegation. 13.
It's in a Senate report of under oath testimony.
In March of 2009, News 4 began an investigation uncovering a trail of funds seemingly passed between the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians and Governor Bob Riley through the bank accounts of his former press aide, Michael Scanlon. In his ledger, Scanlon calls it Operation Orange. That's where we pick up part 2 of our exclusive investigation into the battle over bingo. In a recent letter to Alabama's governor, State Attorney General Troy King writes, recent news accounts have alleged that you accepted laundered campaign contributions from Mississippi Indian casino interests, whose own casinos would benefit from the elimination of Alabama competition.
I have never been in an Indian casino. I have never had a conversation with a Choctaw Indian.
King's letter goes on to say, further, images of you wrapped in an Indian blanket during your visit to the Porch Band of Creek Indians Reservation in Atmore have been widely distributed.
Now, I can't keep people from saying it, but I tell you what I did do. I went because a good friend of mine, Congressman Sonny Callahan, called me one time and said, I want you to come down to this reservation And I want you to see the new health center that they have built on this reservation. But you quote it as if it was fact. It has never been fact. It never will be. Let me tell you, if this was about money, if this was about campaign contributions, the easiest thing in the world I could do and could have done for the last 5 or 6 years is to take the money that was offered. That's not the point.
In fact, the governor accepted and, according to published reports, later returned a contribution from an individual with ties to Indian gaming. But it wasn't the only one we found in our investigation. We also found a paper trail showing Riley's former press aide, Mike Scanlon, writing a check for $75,000 to the National Republican Congressional Committee per Bama race on November 26th of 2001. Just a few days later, the governor's campaign accepted more than $300,000 from the group. In a similar situation, Scanlon gave thousands to a political action committee that gave to the governor's campaign days later.
That's some pretty compelling testimony from people who have known ties in a Senate hearing to some questionable Indian gaming facilities.
No, ma'am. You're absolutely 100% totally wrong. And if you really would go back and look at this, I think you will understand why you're wrong. I have never had a conversation. I don't know how else to explain this. I have never had a conversation with anyone in Mississippi in my life about Indian gaming there, ever.
Our investigation also found that on 3 separate occasions in September of 2001, the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians paid Mike Scanlon consulting fees totaling some $4.6 million. On each occasion, a portion was wired out into a fund that Scanlon called Operation Orange. Within days, the Riley for Governor campaign accepted funds from political action committees and Republican organizations. A separate ledger within Scanlon's accounting records for Operation Orange details that same check for $75,000 right alongside Riley's name in the memo 1291 per NRCC.
It's absurd on its face. And it's absurd on its face because that's not what it says. It's absolutely not what it says.
Now, Governor Riley claims the Republican Governors Association did a complete audit, and he says that even though Mike Scanlon did give to those organizations, none of that money came to the Riley campaign. Under campaign finance laws, if the governor did take funds from Indian interests, it may not be illegal. But it's a gray enough area that it has caused years of speculation over possible conflicts of interest. Now, if you'd like to see all of the documents involved this evening, we want to focus on the heart of the matter. Are the electronic bingo machines at Country Crossing and other gaming centers across the state legal under Alabama law? This is part 3 of our special series looking into the battle over bingo.
Actually, the first time I ever heard of Country Crossing is when a group came in here and said, we want to make this into the, quote, next Branson, Missouri. So that's great. I think it's wonderful. Help you in the way we can. And still will. Branson, Missouri doesn't allow gambling because it's family entertainment.
The project evolved. In the beginning, it was a residential retirement project that was going to be boasted by country music megastars.
But the real estate and financial markets collapsed. Then a phone call from an unnamed elected state official set the bingo ball in motion.
This individual began to explain to me the particulars associated with electronic bingo. Ronnie, as you know, gambling is illegal in Alabama. I do know that. Ronnie, as you know, bingo is illegal in Alabama. At the time, I did not know that. unless you reside within a county that has a constitutional amendment in place to allow bingo. And Ronnie, there are 18 such counties within the state of Alabama that have a bingo amendment in place. Out of those 18 counties, there's approximately 8, maybe 10 of those counties that will actually translate to an electronic format of bingo.
Houston County legalized charitable bingo in 1994, according to minutes from a Houston County Commission meeting. At that same meeting, Commission Chairman Mark Culver quoted a 2004 opinion by Alabama's Attorney General saying, bingo can be played on paper cards, laptop computers, or video consoles, as long as it adheres to the traditional play and format of bingo.
Bingo has evolved with technology just like that camera has. Bingo has evolved with technology just like your cell phone has. The federal court system recognized electronic bingo as a legal form of bingo in the year 1988. It's been played in Alabama by the Native Americans since 1989. It's been played in Alabama by non-Native Americans since 1992. Houston County, Alabama voted and ratified in 1994.
Culver goes on to read, the bingo must be played on a 5x5 grid. Numbers or symbols must be randomly selected. Winners are determined by preordained patterns, and players must compete against other individuals, not against a house, or something as typical gambling would be.
You're not pulling a slot machine and either the house wins or you win. And that slot machine is set at the house. The house sets that. We can't set it because ours is a legal game of bingo. And you're playing bingo against other players.
The Alabama Supreme Court wrote 6 characteristics. So look at the characteristics. And they were very, very explicit. And they said what is going on out there is absolutely not bingo.
The 6 points outlined by the state Supreme Court are distinctly similar, though not exactly what Chairman Culver quotes from the opinion of the Attorney General. The Supreme Court ruling requires player participation, bingo cards containing 25 squares, individual bingo alphanumeric designs pronounced one by one, physical action by a player in marking cards, announcement of a winning bingo card, and competition against one another.
They'll tell you, well, what we're doing is bingo. Well, most people in Alabama have
This
played
week,
bingo.
we've examined the accusations, arguments, and opinions affecting this war of words over bingo in the state of Alabama. Tonight, we examine the past, present, and future impacts on jobs in the Wiregrass area. In the final part of our special investigation into the battle over bingo.
It is a sad day that the focus has been taken off of something that is spectacular. Look at all the national media that have focused on our project because we're doing it in such dire economic times, and they're amazed by the fact that we're putting in a world-class tourist destination point, and the focus really hadn't been bingo.
I said from the beginning, if they're not doing anything that's illegal, they don't have anything to worry about. But if someone wants to go down and start making crystal meth in Houston County and employ 300, 400, 500 people, we'll shut it down.
This is not a flim-flam operation. You know, our average hourly pay wage is $12 to $16 an hour. Our average management wage is $35,000 to $185,000 a year. This is an economic boom for the Wiregrass region of Alabama, and it's unfortunate that we're having to deal with hypocrisy.
Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley says that nearly 90% of all the money spent in the bingo pavilion every day goes right back to the winners. Most of the rest, he says, will go to local charities. Only a small percentage goes to Country Crossing, and that's to pay the lease and overhead expenses by the Houston County Economic Development Authority, the group who actually runs the bingo pavilion. Gilley says that small percentage is what goes to the future expansion and job creation of the entertainment facility.
Without bingo, we've said since day one, it is impossible to accommodate that project. You cannot accommodate $90 million, which is where we are as we speak today, $90 million having concerts, the synergized cost structure that is there is what creates the opportunity.
If your machines are sequestered for testing, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months, what happens to the facility? What happens to the employees?
The facility will close. The employees will eventually lose their jobs. We will hold on as long as we can, and we feel like that we will prevail in the end. But certainly, if we don't have a revenue stream and we do not have an economic catalyst, we can't accommodate somewhere close to 1,500 employees.
And my final question, sir, and I'll let you go. The people of Houston County elected you 02 and 06 and over a 60% majority. It is a pro-Riley area by all intents and purposes. But it's people with a lot of questions. They're looking for jobs in 9% unemployment in that county, one of the highest in the state. They're looking for anything to keep food on their tables. What is your message to the people in light of all of this?
Exactly the same thing that I've said for a year. There has never been a governor that worked harder to bring jobs into the state of Alabama. And we're going to do that this year, and I hope the legislature takes that. I hope that they will pass our jobs bill. I hope they pass the tax credits. I hope we can help small business. I hope we can do it.